So, Jim Irwin here. We're just going to get started here. So, thanks everyone for logging in. And this is the second of our virtual open days on the farm of Ashley and Lindsay Fleming from Seaforde. We have two Lily astronauts milking a herd of jerseys. So I'll just pass you over here to Jacob and he will get us started.
So I'll just really quickly run everyone through how Zoom works. So I'll start the short video going, and then if anyone comes up with any questions for Ashley or for ourselves, or I think I saw Keith Agnew coming on there as well. So even if nutrition and there's a few people from Cogent, so if you have any questions, we'll stop the video sort of and we can ask the questions. Just put them into the chat, and then yeah, we can get started. So I'll start the video.
It's Tommy Armstrong here from Lanley Centre Agrish. I'm here along with Ashley Fleming from Potterswalls Jerseys. We're looking to do the next of our series of virtual open days, and essentially one of the big motivations for doing this one was that we had a lot of people the last time when we did our actual open day on Ashley's back in, I think it was November, was it? November? We had quite a lot of people afterwards that asked us or said to us that they missed out on it or didn't get, so we're now taking it to everyone essentially to review online. So thank you Ashley for agreeing to have us again. We'll maybe just sort of go through the outline of your farm and sort of maybe background and the basics of it, and then maybe cover a bit of an update since the open day and how you've got on since then. So yeah, all right, over to you.
It's interesting comment you've just made, because you think sometimes out of politeness, but we had quite a few people have actually said to us, you know, sorry we didn't get. So whenever you come a few weeks ago and ask me to do this, I thought, so yeah, I'll see how this goes with it. Farm at the moment, we're about 130 acres in total. Things have moved on quite a bit from the open day. We've learned a lot more as we go along with the help of yourselves and other people that we work with. Cows are really doing well with it. You asked about why the robots. I, as you know, worked out with Cogent, and Lindsay went up through Greenmount and he wanted to come home to farm, and we milked about 40 cows through a small parlour system, so we started to work to increase the numbers from that side, and then we outgrew the space and we needed new buildings, so we were looking at a new milking parlour, and he came back one day from his travels with his clipping and said, Dad, I think we need to look at robots. So with yourselves, he went out to Holland, and along with the team at Lely, we probably spent 2 years trying to get it to work into the system that we had here, because there's a few parameters that we wanted to work with. The sort of cows that we have, we wanted a straw pen, we wanted to try and utilise as much of the building as possible. We ended up changing it, I think, twice in the process of the build, but we've gone with this big open shed, as you can see now, and yes, it was a big investment, but it really has paid dividends to us. The air quality in here in the cows, just out behind us is the Mourne Mountains, and the cold wind comes in across there in the winter time, which we have to block up, but in the summertime there's a lovely continuous breeze coming through the cows.
In here I can't see any cobwebs at all, so it's too high. Obviously,
apart from that, yeah, the air quality through here is fantastic for the cows.
Probably just thinking back, I mean, how long is Potterswalls Jerseys going? I mean, what's
It's a bit of a milestone. In September, it'll be 50 years.
Goodness.
My father bought the first cow at the dispersal sale of the late James King up in Camas and Coleraine in September as a house cow, and it has evolved from there.
Goodness me.
Yeah, and we still have the descendants of the original.
So it's actually grown from one cow essentially. So
up to where we're at now. Yes, it has.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And obviously you're quite well known in pedigree circles and breeding and what you do. Without giving away any trade secrets, what's your breeding strategy, or what's behind where you've got to today, and where do you want to go in future essentially with your herd?
Yeah, I don't think there's any sort of secrets. The showing side of it is a hobby, so we do like cows that are suit that type of thing. But we are really focused on the cows now going forward, and probably we've learned a lot from our open day. I think what were we at our open day in? Around 21 litres or something, I think we were averaging.
Yeah.
Last week we had 26 and a half.
Yeah.
There were 8 cows over 40 litres the other day with a top of 48.8, and we've never had that sort of production, or couldn't get that sort of production from them, and just a normal twice a day milking. We had hoped that we would get sort of probably to 120 cows. We were up at 114, I think it was, and overflowed the milk tank. So
okay, not a bad problem to have.
So that actually provided us with an opportunity with being able to sell a batch of cows to bring it down. I think there's 102 going through at the moment. I think probably 110, as many as we'll be able to cope with. But if we can sit at 25, 26 litres 365 days of the year, that'll put us into cows somewhere over 7,500 litres, which for Jerseys is phenomenal.
With again fantastic milk quality and associated bonuses with that. That obviously will be helpful in the current climate.
We average about 6p in the year with it. Fat and protein will probably finish out about 5, 4 and 3.9 protein probably. But that sort of production's pretty good. Challenge would be going forward is to increase that production or maintain it, and then increase the component level with it, to add extra value to it. Naturally enough, the more production we take from them, the harder it is to keep the milk quality with it.
Yeah, the more volume we have, it dilutes it a little bit. Production a wee bit as well, is it?
I think at the moment we're about 3.1, 3.2 visits per day. Those top cows are going in the region of 4 times a day with them, and you just can't physically do that in a parlour system. And the cows have their own routine. It's funny, they're real animals of habit. If something happens or there's a breakdown or you're doing something, those cows that maybe in that hour window or 2 hour window
wouldn't have breakdowns, no.
It's a machine, and there's something, anything small can happen with it. Thankfully there's been nothing major with it, but it's maybe the machine's been down for a couple of hours, and you come then on the collection list and there's cows you've never seen before, and those cows are obviously came during that window. Stingley was shut down and they go away again. It's quite fascinating. You can come out here at all times of the day, and there's different cows around the front of the robot at different times.
They're set routines.
They're very much creatures of habit with it. So they are.
And I mean, obviously we've touched on that there's a little more production, and I suppose you mentioned why when we thought of robots, and I suppose why Lally, I suppose, is your question.
Well, as I said to you, I work out, and I've been in lots of different races. I don't want to tell you this, but you do have the best reputation. You have been in the market the longest.
20 quid later on, so that's all right.
I looked sort of long and hard at the different options with it, and probably one of your biggest strengths is your backup service and the team of people that you have around that. They're at the end of the telephone 24/7, and it's like everything else. At the start, everything slightest wee thing you have to ring them. Now the majority of things we can sort ourselves.
Excellent. A little bit of help over the phone or something.
They're always at the end of a phone if we need to do something or change something, and the team of guys that look after that are fantastic, and that your backup service probably is one of your biggest strengths, as well as the quality of the machine with it. And I just like the arm system, the new A5. I obviously hadn't had experience of any of the others, but different people that have seen previous models have said your advancement with your A5 is significant. But we really noticed in the heifers, the heifers have really taken off this year, that have come in. The top heifer somewhere over 8,000 litres projected, and you very rarely have to go and get heifers. They're in and out and themselves, and within 3 days majority of heifers have picked it up and come and go themselves with it. And I say very rarely do you have to go and actually fetch heifers. It's probably those older cows that you need to at the start.
Yeah, and I suppose not everything's perfect in the world of Lally all the time, but what's the things maybe what's the downsides of the Lally milking robots?
I suppose the easy answer is it's expensive. Yes, it comes at a cost, but the cost has a value on it, and that's the way we look at it. I work out. Lindsay does clipping, so he's not always here. My wife and daughter, they can manage the system if we're not here. It's relatively straightforward for them. Yes, it is a bit more expensive, but if I was in a milking parlour, or we had a milking parlour and had to bring somebody in, I don't always know if they're going to turn up. I don't know if they're going to milk the cows correctly. I don't know if they're going to treat them the way we treat them. Those are all things. The cows come and go on their own accord through the robot. So you got to balance one with the other.
So Ashley, what would you say to anyone thinking of going in to milk with Lally milking robots?
I think sometimes, and I've picked this up myself, people go into with the idea of milking robots to walk away and leave cows. It just doesn't happen like that. And I suppose the phrase I've used, the one thing it does is free you up from the routine of milking. With us working, or even in a farm situation where there's other jobs going on, you don't have to be here at 5 o'clock to press the button at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. It frees you up from the routine of having to be there to do that. It also allows in the morning, you don't have to be out at 5 to push the button with it. But you have to spend time, you actually spend more time in with the cows and among the cows, because you're not actually gathering them up to put them through a parlour. You're spending time going through the cows. You do have to discipline yourself if there is something that a cow needs attention to. You have to go and get that cow, whereas if you had a cow with a touch on side, you automatically tube them going through a parlour. You have to put them into the training area, or you have to physically do that. But having said that, we have noticed a significant reduction in that as well, just with the hygiene, the disinfecting between each milking with the robot system. That thankfully we didn't have a lot of it, but it has even with us it has dropped off significantly. So it has.
So is that, have you found then, what is it, cell counts or TBC dropping?
Yeah,
lower?
all of those things, cell counts and everything has dropped significantly with it. I say not that we did have a problem with it, but we have noticed that you get very, very few cases of mastitis with it.
One of the misconceptions with the Lally robot is that it can't milk jerseys. I don't know if you heard that one, but that's a rumour put out there by someone. Obviously you can see the milking absolutely fine here. I think it was maybe because they're lower down or something is the theory, but you haven't had a problem with that, no?
No, far from it. I think actually jerseys actually lend themselves to it because they're naturally very nosy and very inquisitive. They love their grub. They get fed through this, and some of the cows, frighten you a number of the times they actually go through it. I think the cow that's in there at the moment is about 10-year-old. There is a cow, 14-year-old and a 16-year-old cow. Yeah, they go in and out no problem with it. So
Yeah, I think I think where that came from is that because of the height of the lally arm, they say it couldn't physically get in under because the teats are lower, or the cows set a little bit lower. But it's working absolutely fine here. There's no issue with this cow. It's
no bother
10-year-old.
Yeah, we have, like, the nature of the herd that we have. There's some really old cows here for different reasons, because they've been old faithfuls and what they've done for us. We haven't had any problems getting them up at all. One of the things that actually surprised Lindsay and I is the difference in the amount of milk that comes out of the quarters versus rear and back. And you don't have, when the cow's finished to come off, you don't have that in a parlour system. So you don't, and that probably is one of the things that has really helped reduce cell counts and stuff. That's what I was saying to you, creatures, that you hear that hissing noise of the thing coming off. Every cow that's standing out there waiting moves forward subconsciously.
This is the separation area for the robots. Obviously you have the robots coming out here. You can separate right into these solid pens and feed here. Maybe just explain your thinking on this layout and this setup.
Yeah, this was one of the things that we really wanted to try and get incorporated into the project, and I say it took us ages to sort of to get it, and even after we had it done, we have still changed it a little bit. We call this the VIP and OAP lounge. Some of the cows that we're using for the show seasons, they stay in here on the straw. There's an old cow in there just behind us, coming 14 years of age on her 10th lactation. There's actually one down in the calving pen at the minute, coming 17 with our 14th calving. Those old girls live in here on the straw. All fresh calved cows stay in here for a couple of nights just till they get on their feet, and we have a camera system installed here that we can check on them if we need to. And since the open day, we've actually got these calving pens and stuff adjusted the way we want them. We have it now that it's a one-man operation for us. The cows can calve in the pens just behind us here. We close the gates up and bring them straight down through into the robot. We put them on rooting and they come back out to here, and they say one person can do that quite easily.
And does heifers also going through this system, or are they coming in from somewhere different? Or
no, the calving pen at the very end is specifically for heifers. The two close-up ones are the ones that we use for the cows. Right. And so we have the gating system that we can close over and just bring them straight through here. So they do, and we use this, bring them into this area, up to a week before calving potentially.
So many calving pens you working with here for
we have
setup?
3 here.
3 calving pens?
3 calving pens, yeah, say 2 for the cows and 1 for heifers.
And they're just what, a bay wide, and what are the depth ways? 4 metres, 5 metres?
This feed area, and this was a channel that was in the old house that we incorporated into it, and it works really well, and we work with the Oxen feed system along the front here for us. Yeah, that's one of the old girls. She's due her 14th calf actually today, and she'll be 17 in the autumn time.
Goodness, she's lasted the distance.
Yeah, she is. She took to the robots really well. She did. Yeah.
What sort of yield, or what sort of
I think she's...
milk has she done over her lifetime?
She's about 85 tonne, I think, done over her lifetime. She's not a huge production cow, but she can tell by 14th calf at 17 years of age. She calves I'm still 16. She calves regularly.
Yeah, excellent. Some of the things you've done on feeding, it's a little bit different. We'll cover a little bit more with Keith in detail here in a minute, but just outline the effects, I suppose, that it's had, and what you've done, say, in the second feed tape in particular. So,
yeah, Keith has been a valuable part of the improvements with us. He and his team, we have been working with them for years, but just over a month ago we got the second feed system going, in which is one of the bonuses with the robot that you couldn't do with a parlour system, and he'll explain a bit more on that to you, what he's done with it. But we have introduced a higher protein meal to the lower yielding cows, and by doing nothing else, we've increased their production probably 2 to 3 litres per cow.
Excellent.
And it's these sort of small, tweaking these small things that's really making the difference with it. One of the things we really notice, you've got to keep the cows calving regularly, so you've got to get cows back in calve. We've been really focusing on that. When we came out of the parlour, there's a lot of cows in a very tight area, and there was a lot of cows not in calve, or not as far in calve as they should have been. So I actually brought in precision service from work, and we got a lot of cows pregnant very quickly with it. And you see the benefit of having fresh cows coming to it every month, and the importance of getting cows back in calve quickly again, that you're not running with long days and dry periods with them. That's one of the areas we're probably focusing on more now going forward. With the new building, and I think it has helped, and the nutritional side of it. We have a policy that every cow gets 2 straws of sex semen, and a conventional straw then if she comes a third service. And last year, say when we came out of the parlour, there was a lot of cows not as in calve that we would have liked. We did use some beef, but I think what we'll do in the future going forward, we'll actually use a bull maybe to pick up cows that come any more that haven't held in calve by their third service. Just purely the nature of the herd, we have a lot of interest for female stock, and there's the opportunity to sell Jersey calves. Yeah, I don't like the bull calves, and sex semen has been a tremendous bonus. And I was just looking through the records recently. We had somebody asked us for to keep a bull calf for them, and we went through. I think there's 4 cows we could potentially keep a bull calf from that's in calf to conventional semen. A lot of the young cows have gone this year with sex semen. With the new 4M stuff, it has been fantastic. So it has. Calf house is going to be full of calves this autumn. This is the cow that hit the 49.9 kilos. This last week she hit 48.8, and she sits routinely in the mid 40s. I think she's projected to about 10,500 kilos for us. 2 cows in front of us here are actually 2 cows that are over consistently over 40 litres. This 71 cow is the cow that's 150 days in milk, 90 days pregnant to sex semen, and projected about 9,500 litres at 6% fat and 4% protein.
This is the sort of cow you want.
That's the role model cow.
That's the template.
From a production point of view, yeah, we'd really like.
Shape and very tight udder, and she's. What age is that cow?
She's on her 2nd lactation. She is. Yeah, she's on her 2nd.
Good condition too. And And so had you much corrective indexes or different types of fertilizers to use?
We were pleasantly surprised, and the ground was in better shape than what I thought it would have been.
Yeah.
He said it was good, but I didn't really understand it. But we'd used the right amount of steroid and the right sort of fertilizers over the years. The pH in the ground was pretty good.
pH was good, so it wasn't too bad then from where you're starting with. So it's maybe more getting the reseeding.
Just needed fresh grass. Yeah. There only was a couple of fields that needed lime. We were pretty good in lime, anything else at all.
Excellent.
We were surprised.
So
one of them was the bog, so I didn't really count.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Let me with that one.
Yeah.
And so, how much of the farm is left to reseed? Is it pretty much all done at this stage now, or is there much more to go?
No, we've been working through it. We've done bits and pieces over the years, and we bought a chunk of ground for over 40 acres around about a mile around the road, and a large majority of it's all reseeded now. All bar one field, that's all been reseeded within the last 4 years.
Excellent.
And we've started here, and the plan going forward is to do about 10 to 15 acres of rye every year and reseed behind that. So that should get us into 5 to 7 year cycle through the whole farm if we do 15 acres of that every year.
So you're doing straight rye here? Is this not undersoil?
No, you can't. You don't undersoil that stuff.
No. That's
so straight rye, and then it'll come off and then be reseeded at the back end again.
Right.
So that's what this rye was in here last year.
Alright.
And
so the rye, what are you doing with that then? He's putting it in and siling it, or
cropped into the silo? Yeah.
And how do you find that as part of your feed ration?
Well, look, it's working well. There's probably about during the winter is about 25% of the whole crop rye goes into the diet and 75% silage. So it seems to work well for us. Previously, I suppose we were using whole crop wheat, you know, but the rye probably comes off a little bit earlier, and it probably slightly higher yielding as well. So I think so.
The whole crop wheat was contract grew. We didn't grow that ourselves, so we were able to grow less on farm. We used less acres because of the bulk of the crop.
What sort of yields are you doing then?
There was something ridiculous last time, wasn't it?
We need to go and check, but it's about 13 tonne or something.
I think it was even more.
Was it?
It was crazy.
It's good then.
You couldn't see over it last year. It was that good.
And what you said it comes off a little bit earlier. Like what's the date exactly?
It was cut last year when I wasn't here. It was cut when I was at the Welsh last year, wasn't it? Mid-July.
July.
I was partying at the Welsh.
Oh, yeah, there's one of them. Fluffy bit. The wind takes it. Just point that towards the wind. So that comes off July, so then that gives you a good window to reseed, doesn't it?
Reseed
And you
again,
probably still use the reseed. What grades it afterwards, or
Last year we didn't, because it turned wet end of August last time. We just got this in. We never even got it grazed. Didn't come enough growth in the winter time. We just let it be, and we just moved it off for first cut.
it's fine. Yeah.
So
Here was Keith Agnew from United Feeds that looks after the feeding and nutrition side of things here at Potterswalls Jerseys. If you want to maybe outline the strategy, what you do here, what the ration is and so on.
Okay. I think probably we start at the dry cows, which is sort of the start of the whole process, and it's an area that we've probably worked on quite heavily here. Jerseys obviously are a bit more prone to milk fever, so many years ago we started out on a strategy to try and counteract that. So the cows, probably about 2 to 3 months before they're due to dry off, we'll assess the body condition on them. Depending on the results, then we'll either up the feeding or reduce the feeding to get them into the correct condition that we want to do at drying off. During the summer, if the cows are dried off, they'll go out into a relatively bare paddock, and if we need to supplement them, we'll use some round bale silage. And during the winter, then they're just dried off into the straw pens or into the pens. Feeding wise, about 4 or 5 weeks before they're due to calve, we'll bring them in. Even during the summer, we bring them into the house, and we put them onto a special dry cow silage that we've grown. So we'll take a second cut, we'll grow it a little bit longer. And what we're trying to do is reduce the potassium content of the forage. Yeah. So if we can get the potassium content down, then we feed a pre-calve and nut along with that, and that gets the mineral balance between calcium, phosphorus and magnesium correct. Potassiums have been shown, high potassium forages tend to promote milk fevers. Okay. So what we're trying to do is reduce the potassium on the diet. They'll stay on that ration until the point of calving, and from that then they'll obviously move into the robots. We have a 21-day sort of startup program on the robots to increase the feed levels as they go in. Okay. The TMR that they're fed is targeted. We use the TMR and 2 base kilos in the robots, and that's targeted for about 18 to 20 litres. The cows then are fed 0.55 kilos per litre above that target of 20 litres. So that's the basis of the diet. The robots, we use a 16% nut in the robots for the high yielding or for the any cows up to about 200 days are on that 16% nut. After 200 days, then we have the ability to feed a second type of concentrate. So we move those 200-day plus cows onto an 18% nut, and that's just, and we reduce the feed rate a little bit. We take it down to about 0.45, and that's just to make those later lactation cows work a bit harder, stops them putting on too much condition. Okay, and you'll get an increase in the litres that way. So that's really.
I mean, on that point, I hear a couple of different philosophies. Some philosophies are the reverse of that almost. What's your take on that?
Look, I suppose we've sort of been doing trials on various farms, but Ashley and the Potterswalls herd here have been one of those farms for the last sort of 12, 13 years. And what we would prefer to see is take the protein out early lactation. It tends to drive their intakes, so we get better forage intakes at that point, and that keeps what we'll find is we don't get as high a peak yield, but we get a much flatter production curve. So those animals, and there's probably animals in here doing over 40 litres, they'll hold that milk yield a lot longer during lactation. So you lose a little bit at peak, but you'll gain it later on in lactation. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is keep the peak low, but maintain a much flatter lactation curve. And then, as I say, in late lactation, we'll add a little bit of protein just to try and work fat off their bodies a little bit and prevent them putting on too much condition.
And what sort of mix do we have here?
In terms of the forages, we're probably using 25% whole crop rye and 75% grass silages. At the moment, we're probably a bit of a mixture of silages. But very little whole crop because we're sort of at the end of we're well into June, but during the winter it'll be a mix of 25 to 75%. The TMR is set up to the total diet, crude protein, and the total diet is targeted at 15.5%, 16% protein. And the TMR, the basal TMR, is targeted in around 16% starch. When you add in what the animals are feeding, getting through the robots, we probably take that starch content up to just over 20%.
Okay.
So
and what sort of kilos a meal goes in at the feed fence here versus at the
TMR contains, at the moment, it's about 5 kilos of TMR, just because we're on poorer quality forages. During the winter, we were probably running at about 3.5, 4 kilos of blend going in.
What's the maximum we would get in the robots? Would be happy enough?
Well, the maximum, those sort of cows doing 40 litres are probably getting around about 13, 14 kilos in the robots, sort of thing. So
that's kind of quite a bit, but you find that's not.
It's quite a bit, but what you have to remember with Jerseys is they pump out an awful lot more energy in their milk because they're higher fat and protein.
Yeah.
So a lot of Holstein herds probably hearing 0.55, thinking it's very high, but these are putting a lot of energy out in their milk.
There's a lot more nutrients and solids in the milk,
like
so
these animals are probably sitting at around 5.4 fat, 5.5 fat, and they can be up to sort of 3.9% protein. So there's a lot of energy has to go in to keep that quality going. One of the things we do, some of the additives that we probably use in the blend, we're using some high C16 fats, and we're also using some protected amino acids just to maintain milk quality and production. So, Doug, I suppose at the point of calving, all the cows will will be milked, and they'll receive colostrum within the first 2 hours of life. Then the calves are going on to a milk powder. It's a high fat and protein powder to sort of mimic what they would be getting naturally out of the cow. So it's a 25 protein and 24 fat, I think it is. What?
It's your own one.
I know, but I can't remember. So that they go on to that, and they're introduced to a standard 18% calf starter ration. They'll continue on that until they're weaned off, and they're probably weaned at about 8 weeks. Then they'll move on to, we'll transition them on to like a heifer growing ration, which in this case we're using a higher protein, a 23% protein heifer rearing ration, and that's to try and develop their frame of the animals when they're young. And then they'll go out to grass in their first year as normal, and they'll be grazed and go on to a normal sort of routine. But we do keep the higher protein ration into them just to try and develop that frame in the calf.
Is the aim to calve these down at the 24 months, or is that
24 months, 22 months? Certainly we want to calve them down in that earlier period. Probably would be actually one of the points around the heifer rearing is that we are delaying them going out to grass in that first year till they're slightly older. They're probably about 10 months of old age, and part of that is because a lot of calves that go out early actually stall in their growth because they're not old enough, they're not big enough to actually utilize grass as efficiently. So by keeping them in and pushing their growth in the house, when they actually do go out to grass, they're capable of taking that on, and you don't get a stall in their growth pattern. So that's an important part.
We had a policy where we got a feed of colostrum and straight on to powder milk. We've changed that to a second feed of their mother's milk. So they're getting their colostrum and actually a half colostrum and a half mix of whatever the second milking of the cow is, and then over on to powdered milk, and that seems to be helping a wee bit.
A lot of vaccinations, you read the small print that suggests that you feed them for nearly, is it up to 10 days with some form of the natural milk?
I don't know, we may be wrong, but our experience of doing that, you end up transition problems with the calf. That 10 days is critical. If you get a milk scar or something like that, you know, if you have something else with it. So we've actually found, what I do is, and Lindsay and I argue over it all the time because he gives off to me about it. So you get that colostrum as much as we can get to them, then whatever colostrum's left, I'll mix some of that with the second feed of milk, and then what's left of that's milk mixed with the powdered milk, and then over on, but the fourth feed they're over on to the other. I've only been doing that since Christmas, and we've had touch wood no problems with it, and it seems to be helping. There's a row there's a row they're all heifers, like they're as big as any of those cows. The yields that we're getting out of the heifers at the moment, you'd be happy with them coming out of cows.
Okay.